we're going to go a lot of random topics, but we also need to like wrap up the different plans and kind of put it all together. Like we've gone through the merit plan, the bonus plan, the equity plan. We saw the grid for them, and I want to basically launch merit and an equity together. Because no point in putting all this together if you guys don't know how to launch it from that perspective. And not only launching it, but also like canceling it. Why do we want to cancel it? And I'll show you how to set up the help text for it. Because when you launch it, there has to be some help text at the top of the screen. That might be a client requirement. So I will show some of that. And then if we get time, we'll do some more topics. All right, so okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the tenant. I have created a fake hierarchy in here, and we're actually going to just start off with an existing compensation review cycle that exists. And the reason I'm starting with this is like I want to show how to cancel it, because when you're testing, canceling is very important, because in order to make any changes that show up as part of the grid, or if you make any security changes, or you want to roll out the plan or remove someone from the plan who was not already on the plan, to do those kind of changes, you do have to cancel it and then make the changes. Like, for example, if the cycle is in progress, you cannot make any comp changes to someone. And of course, in real life, I'm going to give you a plan on how to deal with that. But during testing, you could always just like cancel an existing process. So here, what I'm showing on the screen is a comp review. Let's just say it was merit and stock, and the name, when we're launching it, we give it a particular name, and you're going to say like version 1, version 2. You could have multiple versions launched at the same time with different grid configurations if you want to show the different grids to your client. And then to cancel it, you could go on the 3 dots right here, and then business process and cancel from there. Okay. The other thing I want to show you over here is this page right here is by default, it is available to the comp administrator. It's also available to the HR admin if they also have comp admin. So keep in mind that if you only have security admin and HR admin, you may not be able to launch the compensation review process. You do need to assign yourself compensation admin as a security group to do that. And you will also notice that, for example, here, by default, there's like very little equity budget. And the reason behind this is that usually the equity plan may not be assigned to employees. So after you launch it, they may give you the budget, and you're basically going to enter the budget at that point. Like default, I don't know why, we may have like 1 person or 2 people in here that has a stock plan assigned, but normally, the stock plan is not going to be assigned to the employees unless the company is like very sophisticated in terms of their stock maintenance.
Till what stage we can cancel the process?
You could cancel it at any stage, like once you start initiating it, but this screen only shows up after you have launched it. After you're on this page. If you want to cancel it before this stage, then you go to the merit plan and you do it from there. So let me actually cancel it from there. So every time you have launched the merit plan events, they show up down here. Like for years and years, all the history will be here. Okay. And if you want to know what were the details that were in place as part of the plan, like many years ago, if you click on it, open it up, there's going to be a detail tab, which will tell you the configuration options that were used at that time. So it's a good history of it. And then you come down here under the merit plan events, and then under status, and then you'll see which ones need to be canceled. And here it was in progress, but it could also be just, like the very first step of initiating it or the second step. Then you could come down here and cancel it from here.
And after finalization, can we cancel it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, sir. You tricked me with that one. I thought you meant like after we have launched it, we can cancel it. But once it's finalized, that's not a logical step. Like it's already been closed and finalized. There's no such thing as canceling it at that stage. Like what I mean by finalize is,
Okay.
let me go back to that screen. Okay, right now we have launched it, but if we press this blue button, that has finalized it. That means if there was anybody who got a merit or stock grant, once we hit this, that data will now flow into the employee's profile, and this process is now finalized. There's nothing else to be done. It is now in finalized state. You cannot rescind this particular process. The data is already on the employee's records, but you could go to the employee's records, or you could go into the employee business process and rescind, the compensation change at the employee level. But so yeah, that was a good trick question. All right, yeah.
What all actions can be taken at this stage? Just click on that actions drop down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
Not here. Right next to that finalize button, there was one action drop down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this action to maintain pools. So if you need to, usually it will not be the consultant, but if the comp admin wants to adjust any pools, they could do it from here. If you want to see which manager or which planner has submitted or needs to submit, then you could use the second menu, because this is process status report by hierarchy. And when it says hierarchy, it just means the planner. Okay. The review process view organization here, it allows you to put in the supervisory org or the planners and see the same data.
Okay. So this is more of a preview exercise.
Yeah. And if they want to know, like, for example, you'll be asked a question like, can you tell me what was the budget for all the orgs, right? Then you'll click in here, and then you'll see all of the orgs listed. You'll see the high-level orgs, and then you'll see the subordinate orgs. And then you could download it into Excel, and you could give it to them. So the question is, okay, can you give me the pool amounts? You'll get it from here.
Okay.
Yeah. And since we're on the control page, I'll just go through some of the other things as well. So we're on the process tab, and it tells us there's like 132 in progress and 0 completed. So this 132 represents the organizations that are part of this review cycle. So not the individuals, but the organizations. And in this case, since I launched this program on the supervisory orgs, so that means that the program has been launched to 132 orgs. And none of the planners have submitted, so that's why this is 0. But as they submitted, this number will go down and this number will increase. And in order to finalize it, not all of them have to be submitted. Like if the due date comes and you have to close it, and they'll say finalize it, you can hit the finalize button even if not all of them have submitted it. So if they have not submitted anything, it will still be finalized and their employees won't get anything unless someone goes into their employee's profile and then just adds it as a ad hoc merit change.
So Ramesh, this screen, is this the only way to look at this screen, or it is customizable? I mean, if just to rephrase that question, if I want to see this screen for in progress for just the planners, so let's assume there are 15 planners for this
Right.
132 supervisory organizations. Can I have this screen showing 15 planners, and out of which maybe 3 has completed and 12 are in progress, something like that?
Yes, and you could do that through here. If you do this here, you will put in the, for example, here I'm putting, the top dog one, and then include their subordinates. So then we will get the top org and the subordinates and their status. But this will be more like the Excel version of how much budget they had, how much they have spent, and their status, whether or not they have submitted it or not. So
Okay.
this is one way to do that. So that's the process.
Yeah. So if the organization has merit as a separate process and maybe bonus and stock as a separate process, then you can have 2 or 3 processes going in parallel also, right? Or
Right.
even multiple processes if they are running it maybe separate for separate organizations. So you can have multiple comp review process. That is also possible, and there is no restriction by the Workday or product on that.
Correct. Like right now, I just have one. And notice this is merit and stock. So, you could definitely have a separate standalone bonus here. And multiple merit and stock ones also just give it a different name. I mean, you could even keep the same name, but it will just get confusing when you look at it for testing purposes. So just give it like different versions, V1, V2, V3, like that.
Right. And the screen that you showed, maybe the screen before, to look at the historical data of the merit cycle, you got into the system through that particular merit plan. But if I have the different plan name earlier, then that will not show up there, right?
You will have to go to that plan's events. Like right now, we went into
that plan's event.
Yeah. So that history is always there under that plan, even if it's deactivated.
Right. But for that matter, you need to know that plan, right? If suppose 2004 is missing out of in the sequence, then I should know what was there in 2004 and then get into that plan and then look at the history.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, one last question from my side. So if this merit and bonus cycle, let's assume they are run separately. Now each of those got finalized.
Yeah.
Now I want the comp statement to pull the data from both this merit grid as well as the bonus grid. Both the grids are separate, both the process ran separately, but the data is there now in the database because we have committed it or finalized it, right? Now, if I want to show up data from both these grid onto one single consolidated statement, is that possible?
That's only possible through a document design or a BERT letter, but not through the standard review letter that Workday has. Like if you did a BERT letter, then the BERT is going to be based on a report that you create. And since you're creating the report on the worker object, on the data that's already on the employees, you could pull any data into that report, and any data that is on a report can be put on a letter. So
understood. So something that is there in the database, irrespective of how many processes have been run, can be pulled into the BERT report.
Correct. As long as the processes have been finalized and the data
and it is there in the database. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, one other issue that happens is we have already launched it, and an employee, say there was a finance employee, and now they're going to move into, they cannot wait till the process is over. They need to make the change now, and they need to move the person from one org, say like finance, and they need to put them into engineering or vice versa, right? And they're going to go into the employee's, transaction, and they're going to try to do the transaction, and they're not going to be able to do it. So they're going to come to you like, hey, we need to make this change. We cannot wait till this is finalized. How do I do that? So there's two ways to do that. Well, actually, once it's launched and you're beyond the snapshot date, there's only one way to do that, which is go to employee participation, and then under actions, first you have to remove the person from this program. You have to remove that person from the compensation review. So you click on remove employee from compensation review process. It's this last menu. Okay. You remove them, so the person is no longer part of the process. Then HR could make the changes they need to. And then once they have done that, then you add the person back to this process, add employee to compensation review process. Okay, so that's how you would do that. And even if you need to change someone's budget amount, like the pool amount that was allocated to someone, right? So for example, based on some calculation, their previous amount was like $2,000, right? But they say, no, make that person's pool amount $5,000. So once it's launched, we cannot change it at the individual level, except through this trick workaround. We remove the person, okay? We remove the person, and it will tell you, do you want to just remove the person and remove their pool? So you say yes, and then you add the person, okay? Okay, so it will say, remove all contributions. You'll see like, okay, this was their pool amount, and you could click on remove contribution. Okay, so that means you're going to remove that person, and the total pool is also going to decrease by this amount because everything's been removed. Now, then you're going to do the reverse of this, and you're going to add that person, and when you're adding it, it will ask you how much pool do you want to add. And then at that point, you will put in whatever that new dollar amount or the new pool amount is. And then, you have updated the pool amount for that person and as for the overall too. So it's a very neat workaround to modify someone's pool amount after the process has been launched.
But generally, if the pool needs to be adjusted or modified, I think there should be some way to do it on the entire pool, right? Employee basis pool adjustment. Do you see any these kind of requirements coming through?
Yeah. The only reason I came across this is because I ran into this scenario, and then I searched. I think I contacted, when I had to go through it, I contacted a lot of people, and until we settled on this workaround based on what other people were doing from another company. Yeah. And I think
then there must be some workaround to adjust the overall pool also, right?
Yeah. To adjust the overall pool is also through that EIB that I showed last time, where you had the pool amounts. So that is real time. Like whenever you use that and load the pools will be adjusted in real time as long as the process is not finalized. So that will allow you to update it for everybody.
I was coming through the context in the sense, let's assume we have taken some company scorecard, for example, which is saying maybe the company is going to perform 100% or 105%, maybe as per the prediction or assumption. But then suddenly company realized after the actual results came through that no, let's have just 100% of the overall performance, not the 105% which has been set up. Then it is going to impact the overall budget, right? The budget pool. So
Yeah.
there must be some way to directly adjust it, right? That plan modifier or something was there. I mean, I don't know how it functions, but is this something that is relevant to it?
The plan modifier is going to function before, like when you're, the plan modifier comes into play before you actually get to this stage. So once you're at this stage, the plan modifier is not going to change it. And the plan modifier is used in the bonus program. So I think I'll show you how that scorecard works. So basically the first step is going to be you have like the standard budget, and then you got the plan modifier, which is going to say, okay, now we need to reduce it by 5% or increase it by 5%. So there's going to be a configuration where you could now enter 5% or whatever way that you need to change it. And then the budget will be changed, but that will be before you have actually got to this launch stage.
But can we attach scorecard to both merit and bonus, or it is just applicable for bonus?
Scorecard is for bonus.
Okay.
All right. What are the things under employee participation?
So when you're adding back the employee here, are we going to see his updated, like, is it after, I mean, because somebody has done the changes, so are we going to see his updated data, or are we still going to bring back his data, whatever it was till snapshot date?
No, it's going to be the updated data.
Okay.
Like if you have changed the manager, if you have changed his salary, because you have actually removed that person from the plan, and then you could do anything you need, and then you add that person.
So basically, let's say if I have changed the manager, then after this, the new manager will have the information and he will have to take any action.
Correct.
Okay.
Snapshot date is just to decide who will be the planner and reviewer, right? Not the compensation salary data and all. The current salary will come from the database itself.
There is a separate snapshot date for compensation snapshot date.
So that will decide what would it impact? It would impact the current, the salary at that point in time, or the hierarchy at that point in time.
Here, when I'm adding it, it's going to bring in the new pool, and the new pool is going to be under the new manager. That's what I'm saying here. Like when I add someone, and it's going to be under the new planner, I should say, not the new manager. Like if there was a change to it. Okay. Some other things underneath here. Maintain compensation review participation, newly eligible. Yeah, the key thing is adding and removing. One caveat to remember about adding employees, you cannot just add any employee. That merit plan or that stock plan or the bonus plan already has to be assigned
eligible
to
employee.
And only then you could add them. So for example, if we forgot to assign it to them, this won't work. You won't be able to add them. So that is a big bummer. Because that is the scenario where you actually need to add them because you never signed the plan. So this is more of like, kind of like if you need to make changes to the person. Make changes or to change their amount or to move from one planner to another. Yeah, so keep that in mind.
Our appraisal cycle was to happen in the month of July, this time, okay?
Right.
But and that basically happens on the salary increment that has happened in the last cycle. So let's assume the last July we had increment. Now this July it was due, but it didn't happen, and it is now happening in the month of October. So this is the scenario of my current organization. Now,
Right.
if suppose my salary, my particular salary got increased for some reason because of some tantrums or something that I did, and they said, okay, we will increase your salary by maybe 5 lakhs. Now my salary got increased in the month of July, only my salary to
Right.
by maybe 5 lakhs. Now I'm also eligible for this merit cycle. Now, how can I tell the process to pick up my latest salary, or what would happen to the pool and the process? Which salary it would pick up for me? The process start date, start period, and end period is same. I mean the June to July or July to June, the
Yeah.
cycle that is same. But in between my com change happened maybe between July to October
Okay.
after the
If the
process start date.
yeah, if the process had already launched, then and if you're
No, it
part
is
of that
not already.
process,
It is not already launched. Now the process is getting launched. Let's assume. So what will happen
Okay.
to these kind of employees?
Yeah. So if you had a salary effective date which is after the end date of that time frame,
Yeah.
then it's not going to be taken into account. Like you're saying, like the cycle was from like June to
July to
from
June.
Yeah, and you have a salary in October. This
Right.
October salary will not be taken into account for the pool purpose, because for the pool, it's going to look at the salary as of the compensation effect. Sorry, not the compensation effective date. There is a date for it: process period end date.
End date. Okay.
Yeah, and the process period end date is going to have a lesser salary, so that your new salary will not be taken into account.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and cancel this. Okay, now I'm going to show how to add the help desk, and not the help desk, help text. Okay. So you go here, business process, and maintain help text.
Okay.
So it's typically, the help desk is going to be for the end user, so which is the complete employee award step. These are all, for HR admin or comp admin or Workday admin. So we don't really need help text there. But on this date, they might request this type of help text, like the
So
date.
is
And
this something that is created by customer or consultant?
yes, yeah. So the consultant would enter the help text here.
Okay. And they can give the URL or something to the book.
Yes, yeah. And whatever they give you, you just come in here and enter that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if there is no book, is there any default link for the help desk? Maybe redirecting to the community or something else?
No, the default is just empty. Like, if you go over here, there is no help text. It's just blank. So, the top of the screen is it doesn't have any help text. Just like these screens don't. But this screen, the control page we were on, it had this information at the top.
So unless you configure the help desk in the Workday, it will not work, or it will be always empty for all the screens, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And this could be in any format, or it is just PDF or some other format.
And this is HTML. This is how HTML enabled.
HTML
Oh,
enabled.
well, sorry. My bad. It's not HTML enabled. It has only certain. It is kind of a mix. Like if I say HTML enabled, that means I could use HTML code and put anything in here, which is not true. I could only pick certain colors. I could only pick certain things on here.
Okay.
But it does allow you to do some formatting. Like
Now, can I create a document outside the system and then plug it here?
I believe so. Yeah, just like all the other help text. I have not put a link under here, but I have put, link under like the job change help text that goes to outside of the system. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting this reason up here is because I'm logged in as the comp admin and not as I don't have all the permissions to it. So I get this error that text submitted is not authorized because the comp admin doesn't have all of this configuration access.
Okay. You have also worked on PeopleSoft, right? There used to be context sensitive help and there used to be a normal help. You can click on a link and you can get some book, or you can click on particular page and you can have a help as regards that particular page. So can we configure the similar one in this Workday as well?
Yes. The links could go to certain menus directly. I think that's what you're asking, right?
Hey, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features: bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
We could put a link.
One way of doing it is just to directly get into a particular menu. Maybe a recruitment help will get into directly a recruitment kind of guide. But sometimes there are some pages, right? A particular page may have some context sensitive help. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could definitely put in the hyperlink. Wherever we put the hyperlink is going to take you to whatever the hyperlink points to. And then there's also something called bulletin list, where you could put links to external items. And then there's also something called external links, which are for external links, but that's kind of like outside of the comp process. Those are just separate dashboards.
So is this help link or button available on each and every page?
It is available on these pages for this BP. If we were doing, like, for example, BP job change, and then, the BP job change has like many different steps based on, all the companies have different number of steps. Each of those pages or steps, you could put the help text on there.
Okay. It is up to the implementer or configurator, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm going to go back to merit plan. Actually, instead of going back to the merit plan, let me the next thing I want to show was the edit or view of the compensation review template. So
I think we are going in various directions. You're trying to cover all the points, I understand. But I just, before you get into the further topics, I wanted to understand how or when I or my team would be able to say that we are either proficient, expert, beginner. At what level? After knowing merit, bonus, and stock plan at the level that you are showing us, or we need to dig more into it in some other dimension which you are not able to cover because of the time. Just try to touch upon it maybe at the end of the session or maybe at the start of next session. That will give us the idea where we are and whether we are in the self-correction mode to maybe deep dive into and get more expertise maybe on our own. Just try to touch upon that as well, because I'm not sure what to understand at the end of this training, whether we are good, better, best, or how much it is required to get more proficiency in this.
Yes. So let me show you this next step, which will kind of put everything together, because remember how we created, first we talked about like what are the different plans, and then what are the parts of the plan, and then we talked about the template, and then the parts of the template, and then one of the things that go into the template is the grid, and then we talked about launching it, and then configuring the grid. And then once you have launched the grid, you move to this control page that we saw. So those are the steps that we have covered. And now this is actually one of the, the last piece is like, okay, now, you come in here, everything's been configured, and now you're being asked to launch the program, right?
Yeah.
So if you come in there, as a new hire, but the plan has been configured or not, let's say, for example, you got you come in at Maritime and they say, hey, we need to launch the same process we did last year. We're just going to change the dates. So, first thing you're going to do is, hey, let me see, do we have a comp review process template? And we're going to just search for that. So at this point, I expect everybody who's been on this call with me that they should know what the template is for and why I'm using it. Yeah. So
and from the template reminds me one question that I forgot. The one that you were talking about, removing the employee and then adding it up. But then on the template, you also showed there are some parallel processes, shared participation or participation allowable processes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which can be allowed for maybe employee level changes, maybe without removing employee.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Get into the template, maybe. Get into the template. You were showing something.
Yeah. But one key point that is I'm going to mention about that is, because I just had that real world experience in that, is people who, people who know about that, but they don't know all the constraints about it, they'll end up wasting a lot of your time. So I had a client this week, or actually Thursday, they were insisting that with parallel event processing, they should be able to move the employee from one org to another, and they do that, but they're not seeing the difference in the grid or in planning. The person is still part of the old manager or the prior manager or the prior planner, and they also they were also trying to terminate someone, and they did terminate, and their expectation was that this person should be removed from the plan or the process, and it was not happening. And so yes, while there are parallel events that you could set up some rules, but they have a constraint, and that constraint I'll just mention it now and I'll go through it again. The constraint is that those transactions have to be before the snapshot date. Yeah. And so they may be done now. The program has been done now, or program has been launched, but the effective date of those transactions has to be before the snapshot date. Yeah. And then for terminations, the termination has to be before the plan effective date. So what happens if the termination is after the plan effective date, but before the payout date? And no one realizes that the person has termed. Who's going to be responsible for that, $2,000 that's been paid out to the termination person? So this was actually a scenario that happened with someone in, I think it was like some hospital. And then the Workday admin reached out to me like, what can we do? But unfortunately, there's nothing we could do at that point. So the scenario was that the bonus cycle effective date was September 15th. Okay, that's key date, right? So bonus process finalized on September 10th with an effective date of September 15th. At this point, the employee in question is active. And they were assigned a bonus of, let's just say, $5,000. Okay. So on their worker history, it says there is a bonus amount of $5,000 with an effective date of September 15th. Okay. Now they terminate on September 20th, right? No, that's it. I think the person terminated on September 27th. The check has already been deposited on September 25th. And whose fault is it that the money got paid out to this terminated person? And it's not the Workday guy's fault. I mean, everything, like, Workday could have only caught it if the termination date was before you either finalized it or it was before the effective date. Okay. Or someone needed to have told the Workday person that please remove the bonus transaction from this person or from these people who have terminated it. But if we don't know that, it should be the payroll administrator who makes sure that when you're paying, you're only paying your valuable money to people who are not terminated. So right. that audit is it should be on payroll.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think payroll admin is the right placeholder to look at maybe some report who are terminated and who are getting maybe some money which they should not get, because that is the last checkpoint, right?
Right. And it's not, there's no setup that you could do in your bonus program that if this person terminates after the bonus is finalized, that it will remove that person from that. If the person terminated before the effective date, you could, your parallel event
you can control.
would have worked.
Yes.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's a manual audit.
Right.
Okay.
But generally in India, that doesn't happen because India has 3 months of notice period. You have 15 days, 2 weeks, so that can happen. But in India, we can control it.
That's good. So even here, they do send a proper letter, from the company's attorney that this money is not, it does not belong to you. This was accident. You have to pay it back.
Yeah.
All right. So this is, so you log into the system, you look for any previous templates because you want to see what the previous setup was. So you do view compensation review template, you see one here. You can see the dates that were used previous time. You see that there was a grid created. You could open up that grid and you can see the fields on there. You could see the options for participation. You open that up, and while that opens up, you see what plans they have. There's the annual merit plan. Bonus plan was not added here because it doesn't say any bonus plan is selected, but the stock plan has been selected, and none of the other ones.
So here, you can go back if you scroll up a little bit. So here, the merit compensation snapshot date. So this date, at this date, I think we are going to consider the compensation for that associate. Is that the case?
Yes. Yeah, this is a snapshot date for the merit calculation.
But if we are launching from 1st of January to December of 2024, isn't it? I mean, we are giving way too close at the start of the month or at the start of the year. Shouldn't be this date in December or something?
That would be so it does allow you to differentiate the process period end date. So here we see, for example, process period end date is 12/31. But if you,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. So yes, you could make that the same as that, but in case you do want to include salary changes that happened after this date,
Okay.
then you do the merit comp snapshot date. So to include any changes that happened between December and February, this will capture that.
Good. Okay.
No, but the proration works only till process period end date, right? You said earlier.
Yes. Yeah. Proration is from the start of the period to the end date.
So the salary that is getting changed between December to January or February, you're saying, will it really consider it?
So
I was thinking that the compensation snapshot date is as close to maybe the process run date, maybe, or maybe effective date, for the reason that it can then take up the current basic salary as latest as possible. That was the only reason I thought.
That makes sense. Like you don't want to have 2 months in between the process period end date and
right.
When you actually do that.
Right.
So those, the closer you have, you want to run this program as close to January 1st as possible, but
no, but that is not in our hand. I mean, my company is now changing it to maybe 3-quarter delay, right? So it's not in the hand of Workday consultant.
Yes. Okay, so we see this, and then here are the options that we're talking about in terms of process options.
Sure.
It's going to be based on supervisory org, the name of the top level org, and the approval is going to be going to the entire hierarchy, or the other option here would be just the next level approver. And we talked about the merit process targets, bonus award target.
So organization type, supervisory, top level organization, network, it will start this process from network organization, right?
Yeah.
Network and below that. So if there is any organization above network, it will not consider it.
Correct.
The way we were considering, right? Executives maybe could be at the top level, and let's leave them to some other merit process, and below that we can consider here.
Right. But even as long as you don't assign the plan to the executives, then you could make this one whatever the CEO org is, then it has the same effect. Yeah.
And then organization type could be supervisory or cost or maybe some other location, region, whatever it is.
It could be any organization type, even custom org.
But did you see any kind of those requirements? Maybe
I have not. I've only seen supervisory
only, na? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Here are these participation rules that allow you to say that, are you going to allow change of during this process? And I have left it as allow all as blank. It would not be a good practice to do that. I have never seen this. It seems like it's possible, but everybody in my training and my experience, we never allow it. I think it's you have frozen things. You have put your budget and planners based on some snapshot date, and then if you allow these kind of changes, even if it's before the snapshot date, it's just going to get very confusing, or like trying to explain it like, okay, you can make these changes with these effective dates at this time. The best practice I have followed and I have seen followed with other people is we just call it a freeze for salary and for organization changes. That just freeze them while this process is in flight.
The configuration that you are showing right now, wherein there is no Y or yes for change job and request compensation change, and yes for maybe rest of the non-compensation related changes, right? Is this something that is ideal that we should proposed to the customer?
Yes. As a matter of fact, customers already by default, this is the branding for customers. Like they already, like 99% of the customers already know that, we're going to freeze Workday, because even in Oracle or PeopleSoft, people who've been in the industry know the word freeze, like you're supposed to freeze everything during merit cycle. So this is not something you need like explain. It's like it's already there in people's minds that we freeze these type of changes during the merit cycle.
No, but this option, giving this option, actually one of my customer has enabled all those options, putting it as yes. But despite putting this as yes, they are not able to do any changes on the employee unless they remove it. I have seen that in the screen sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, can you share some light on that? I mean, any experience on that?
It also, so it's going to allow you to do it, but then the other requirement is it has to be before the snapshot date. Like it says here, like on or before compensation snapshot date, between compensation date and effective date.
Yeah, the second one I'm actually referring to maybe.
Yeah, so they made a change in between. So in this example, the snapshot date and the effective date, the snapshot date and the effective date. So the snapshot date was 2/14.
Yes.
And the effective date was 4/1. So
let's assume 20th March or 15th March, let's assume. This is 14th February and 1st April.
Yeah. So in that case, it should allow you to do that. For each business process, select all or configure to allow any parallel events initiated.
No, if you really want to relate it, I would give you the example: 38th June and 1st October. This is a long period, right?
Yeah.
30th June is my process period end date. Now 1st October is my effective date. Now, if somebody is coming in maybe July or August, or maybe trying to leave the company and we wanted to retain him through some promotion, then there should be some change to his job in terms of maybe promotion or maybe salary change. So how to do that without removing the employee out of the process and add it up again?
I have only done it through adding or removing.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to understand your experience. Otherwise, we can do trial and error around that. But if you have any experience, you can share.
I don't think this will, even though this allows you to do the transaction, but it doesn't say anything about modifying the pool amounts. See, there's nothing about the pool amounts here.
No, it was not even allowing them to do any change, even if they had yes for those kind of transactions.
Actually, so there is a merit, because I was actually looking into it. There is a very nice community page about it that explains it. Let me give it to the support team and pass it on to you guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't understand now. Request compensation change after effective date. What is the point? I mean, anyways, after effect, it should be possible, right?
But not while the
process is running.
Not while the process is open.
Because then otherwise that will have the basic salary misguided, right?
Yeah, you're gonna mess up the.
Yes, understand.
You're giving someone a salary change, but then that's, you might have already given a future. And Workday already doesn't allow you to do, if you have a future dated, you cannot put another salary behind that one unless you rescind the future dated salary, which we will cover in like our regular compensation part of the class, because we only, we covered the address, which was, these plans and process. But we haven't gone into the regular comp.
So no two future date transaction is possible.
You cannot put a backdated salary change if there's a future one exists. You have to rescind that one.
But then you can put a future dated salary change on the future dated one, which is not the backdated but the forward dated. Can you do that?
Sorry, we could put
So-
a future effective date. But once you have if you have 11/1 salary change, I cannot now put in like a 9/1 salary change. Like I cannot
Right.
insert something in between.
No, but can I have maybe 1 month down the line, Neeraj promoted, and 2 months down the line, he getting transferred to California region?
Yes, yeah, you
That
can
is
have all
possible,
that.
right? Okay.
Okay, so here, best to leave these blank. Make changes as long as the plan is assigned to them using the add and remove. And then down here is something that I have done successfully. For move worker, which is moving only the person from one manager to another one, I have allowed that. And it has to be before the organization snapshot date. And then it will, like you launch the process and the employee is under manager A. Now, you could allow them to do a move worker and move them to manager B as long as the effective date is before the snapshot date. And then if you have allowed this as a yes, then it can happen. And I have seen that. I've done that. Change org, I have not done, but move worker is very safe. It's just moving the employee to one manager to another. So that is okay and is possible. Okay. All right. And then terminations, I have set the rules. And the termination rules also, you set the rule saying that you're going to allow terminations. And then if you do allow that, what do you want to happen to the pool? Do you want to keep the pool award fixed? Do you want to update the award? Do you want to remove if the person terminates, you want to remove that person's money from that pool. So you do have those choices when you set up that rule for terminations. Leave of absence, you do want to allow people to go on leave and come from leave without having any effect, without any restrictions, so they can do that. It does not have any effect on the pool amount. It just allows them to come off leave or go on leave. And
but I think there is some proration rule for leave of absence, right?
Yes,
So that
if they
particular
use
period it will
it.
deduct from it, right?
yeah, if you're using that proration, then it will have it. But just from the fact of
Yes.
going or returning leave, it's not going to have that effect because it's marked as no. It will not have any effect on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And the other one, have you also got some exposure to the other one, the parallel events and custom modifier?
Which one?
How is this compensation parallel event different from the above one? These are also parallel events, right?
Yeah.
And this is also compensation parallel event.
I have stayed away from this.
Okay.
And I would not recommend allowing compensation events during the merit cycle or any of these while this process is launched, right? Because it's going to start giving you discrepancy in terms of what you have put out and
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results, providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, you are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
the same scenario of like you're changing someone's salary, but you have already allowing them to change it outside of the system. I've not touched it. I will not touch it. I'll just stick with terminations and leave of absence and the move worker, which are safer.
Okay.
Basically,
I
is
think Ramesh, I mean, hearing all those conversation through all those classes, one request I have to make you is we would require maybe one Excel from your side that will tell us what not to do when we are doing or working in the compensation.
Yeah.
What to do, you have explained very well, but what not to do, or what is something that we should avoid, which is not clear, maybe when it comes to maybe books or looking at the documentation or from your personal experience, something that we can get otherwise lost into.
Well, I mean, I think from Workday, I'll think of it and try to prepare one. But from a consulting point of view, my training and experience has told me that you never go into something and start changing it without understanding everything that is connected to it. So that's one thing I will tell everybody who is a consultant, everybody who wants to be a consultant, is do not change anything until you understand everything that's connected to it. So that's what not to do.
No, absolutely. But Ramesh, see, in practical life, you don't have that much time always, right?
Hey, the price you will pay for trying to change things without understanding it is going to be a lot higher if you actually do that.
Absolutely. Agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we saw the template, and now we're going to launch the program. So compensation review, you could launch. So there's different menu options, different ways to do the same thing. So even from the template, we could compensation initiate review. It's just going to take us through all the different steps, review the dates one more time. Grid configuration, I actually spent a good amount of time trying to understand this. I have set it up, but I haven't not come up with the step-by-step instructions to show. So maybe in the next one, I will show, but I did set it up finally. But for right now, we'll just use the normal grid. And right now we're putting all the pieces together and launching the compensation review process. And once again, like here, you'll see like I'm using like a very old template here under reviews because in this tenant, we're not actually using any review templates, but compensation review process does require, like these are required fields. So you do need to have like some kind of template there. So just use either a generic blank template or just use some, but because these are required fields. They're not being, like in this configuration, this is not being used anywhere. I'm just putting it in here because it is a required field. The rating is, like I was showing, that is basically in a custom object rather than on performance review template. For merit, when you actually give merit and there's a transaction of a merit change, like the reason that you enter over here is what shows up on the transaction, on the employee's histories and as a transaction reason. Same thing for promotion reason, the reason for stock. You would click in here to see if there's any employees who have transactions in flight. Then you could make a list of those and give it to your HR person to close out those transactions before you go to the next step. Okay, it takes a while for it to show up and process, but we have it now. We have the default bottom-up budget for merit based on the 3%. In general, we had put for all of the countries. No particular default equity budget because the stock plans are not assigned. And pre-fill, you click that, it makes it easy to test all the values. You click there, you can see what the, like the midpoint or what the default values should be based on their target amounts. And then finalize. Okay, so these are the budget numbers overall. And then these are like for each of the, for example, orgs. And then this column right here, it tells you the number of positions, like the head count for each org and what the values are. You could change the values here. You could put, so right now, like if you had, like this is the bottom up budget, but if you want to do top down, you would just overwrite these numbers. So you could put a grant here.
So basically, even though we have selected bottom up earlier, we can just come here and override the budgets, right, as per the budget given by the company, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, then what is the difference? Like it's just like to show you the calculation, like, because there's no difference, right? Then if even if I would have chosen top to bottom, then I can come here and change it. And since in this case we have chosen bottom to up, then I can come here and change it, right? So in both options, it looks like I can override the budget.
Yeah. So the first, you want to have Workday calculated, and you want to make sure that all of the eligible population the plan has been assigned to the eligible population, and you are getting the correct budget. So you do want to see the Workday calculations, and you do want to audit against what's expected. So you want to validate the number of headcount. You want to validate the actual employees who have been assigned the plan, and then you want to validate that the values that you calculate yourself based on the budget match with what's in Workday. And then yes, ideally, that's the budget you're going to be using, but in real life, they'll give you it. They'll be like, okay, that's great, but we're going to give more to engineering and we're going to give less to HR, and they'll give you your own, like a different budget, which you will update here. But you have to mark it as top down then. And if you mark it as top down, then these fields become editable, and then you could put in the new values.
There was some red highlight on the stock, right? Some minus 27%.
Yeah, because I did not put top down. I left it as bottom up.
Okay. And because there was no budget, so it is showing negative.
Yeah.
Does the customer really combine merit and stock, or they keep separate in your experience?
They combine it. They prefer not to, but in one company, they actually keep it separate, but they do run it together at the same time using different approvers or different planners.
Right, because of the planners only I was asking it actually.
Yeah. But at another company, they do it together.
What did you say earlier? Even if we combine both the process stock and merit, can we have a separate grid for both of them or the same grid? A flexi grid you were talking about, right? Somewhere.
Yes, we're talking about the new functionality where you could have within the same program, you could display different grids to different security groups. So different planners like managers versus department leaders.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just try to see if you can model it maybe for next or maybe some session.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually did spend a couple of hours and I did set that up. I've set it up, gone through one cycle of testing, but let me do it one more time and put in the like a screenshots of how I set that up.
Right.
Okay, so here we talked about the parallel events.
Yeah.
With respect to terminations and move worker. Oh, there's one more parallel event that happens, which is the performance review ratings. Okay. So companies, they usually want to see the performance review ratings in the grid. So if you have enabled the performance section of the grid and you have put in the performance review rating, it will update even though the performance review cycle is in progress. As long as the performance review cycle, it has a start date and end date, that end date of the performance review cycle has to be before the end date of your merit cycle. And if that is true, then dynamically, any rating that the manager is entering in the performance review part of Workday will update in real time in the merit grid. But that is the criteria, is that the end date of the performance review has to be before the process period end date of the merit program. Okay. The task name for those parallel event setups is called business process parallel events. Okay. I've got that up here. Okay. Oh yeah. Had another issue, even though it's not directly related to like advanced comp, but someone had not set up conversions. Like they had never had put in currency conversion rates, but they needed to. So I thought, okay, it's not directly related to comps, but I did want to show
it is actually because you're showing the local currency values on the statements and all everywhere, right? On the grid and all.
But usually like payroll would do that. But the task name is just simply maintain currency conversion rates.
Okay.
Yeah. And then under edit tenant setup, you do have to put in your default currency. If it's a US company, it's going to do USD. And then the rate type is going to be current. You got to put that in. And then here, I've done it only for pounds to USD. Source currency is kind of hard to see, but source currency, pounds, target currency, and then the currency rate. So maintain currency conversion rates. Use the type of current, and then the source and the target. And you could actually put multiple currencies in here under the target. So then you could say, okay, pounds to different currencies.
Generally, company must be running this monthly or something fortnightly basis, right?
Yeah. So most of the larger companies have some type of integration that runs on like whatever frequency they choose. The smaller companies, they just update it on a monthly basis manually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they take currency from some standard site or?
There are some financial sites. They pick it up from. Okay. The lump sum configuration fields. Actually want to log into our GMS tenant, yeah, we'll just do the grid configuration and some key point about the copying the grid. So let me bring that back here. I think it's logged out. Let me log back in. Okay. When you try to do the grid, you get choices of doing a blank grid, or you could choose from an existing grid. If we do an existing grid from delivered or custom grid configurations, go into like existing grids that might have been created beforehand, or there were the default ones that we saw under other one. But main thing is that even though you could copy the grid, there's certain things that will not get copied over, and those would be calculated fields.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, if there's some calculated fields, they don't get copied over, and that's kind of a hassle. Okay, so I said, okay, we're going to create a new one called grid, but I'm copying the old one, and I wanted to add the lump sum fields to it. So the lump sums will be added to the merit section. And then let's just go to the very bottom of this before the promotion one. And then there's the lump sum amount. And if we check the definition of that, it will be the lump sum amount for the employee. Okay. So how much the employee is going to get. There's also lump sum plan, lump sum notes. So like, why is this person getting it? And then there's also lump sum effective date, which would be the one-time payment effective date. So lump sum. Oh, I think I did a typo in there. Okay, those are traditionally the three fields that I've seen with respect to lump sum. And I wanted to add that in here. And then just another thing, well, I've already talked about it, but if I scroll to the right, you know how it says like show in panel and then show in summary view. So if you want this to show up in the summary view, not only in the panel is the tab. And then we got the let me see, Smart Panel Summary View. Here under performance.
Also, lump sum effective date. I mean, even if you finalize the merit and merit has different effective date, lump sum can have a different effective date.
Right. Yeah, because this is going to be lump sums are usually well, they are one-time payments, and whereas everything else is like is a merit plan or those other things. But lump sum gets paid out as a one-time, like in the setup of it. When we set up the plan, it actually asks for what is the one-time payment plan you want to associate your lump sum with. So it's typically like, spot bonus, or you may even just create a one-time payment plan called lump sum.
Okay.
here, this field is the rating one, rating notes. Let's see, performance review. No, there's no other one. Okay.
Adjustment for business object is mainly used for this grid, right?
Yeah,
And it holds the grid historical data also. Even if I am in the future date row, adjustment for will have the grid finalized data or grid data at that point in time,
correct.
not the database data.
Not the correct. See, with respect to Workday, like, do not use the word database with it.
Business
Either
object,
say, like,
yeah.
the worker object or like whatever object, because Workday is like, they say that it's not really a standard normal database system.
Right. So adjustment for may have the current salary as something which is not really the current salary, which is
Correct.
Before the effective date salary.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So here, under the performance section, I did have the new rating, what the planner would enter. But this is the current performance rating if the company was using the rating from their performance management, if they were using Workday performance management and they want to show that rating, this would be the field that you would select. And then if you see the definition of it, this is the overall rating from the most recently completed or in progress employee review with a review period end date on or before. The overall rating comes from the overall section of the manager's evaluation with no overall section and without rating enabled or excluded. Okay, so even now this description may have been true whenever this was entered, but this is not what shows on the community or what I have experienced. It says here before, like, assuming like whatever date is no. Well, if you want this to be updated from whatever performance review, it has to be before the effective date of before the process period ended of the merit cycle. Otherwise, it's not going to be the most recent. Like if, we're in October 2024 and your most recently completed is at 20, it's got the date of like December 25. This grid is not going to have that because this will only have ratings prior to the process period end date of this cycle.
No, but if my performance cycle is running after the process period end date, let's assume 1st Jan to 30th December is the process period, and ideally process performance should have run before process period ended, right? So that the next cycle 1st January you should get paid out for the another one. But if suppose because of some delays the performance is running maybe in the month of February for the same process period of 1st Jan to 30th December, the earlier year, right? Then that rating should get considered in the compensation, right? It could be after process period ended as well. That is my point.
It
depends.
Yeah. But if you have launched this now and that one is you're also running, you're running the merit process and the performance review in parallel, right? But you're running the performance review for the whole year of 2024 from January to December. But your merit cycle ends in September 30th, and right now it's open because the planners are doing their planning. The ratings that you're getting now will not be showing up in your merit cycle.
And it should not
Because-
show up. Exactly. That was my point, the next point, because this rating is something maybe I may have maybe for monthly or quarterly or the next cycle,
Correct.
which I don't want it to consider.
Correct. So yeah, they should not show up, and they won't show up. But there could be expectations from your clients that, hey, we do want those ratings in there, but that is a technical constraint and a logical constraint as well. All right, so I just wanted to show that and the lump sum fields, but I'm not gonna save it because this is the same tenant where I'm working on the grid profiles, so I don't want to mess up that. So we got that, and the reason I put that asterisk in there were just to remind that we could copy it, but not the calculated fields. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the agenda for we covered it. I know we got a little bit of time. We could do any.
Maybe we can ask
question.
few questions, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand every product comes up with as much or as comprehensive capability as they can provide, looking at maybe hundreds of customers, right? Each of these functionality or field that is there on the screen comes from one or the other requirement or the customer. But generally, in your experience, do you really see, I mean, all those dimensions or fields are getting touched upon? Or, I mean, do we need to get into really each and every field, or can we start from maybe basic understanding of plans and then process and then eligibility criteria and maybe grid, and that should be fine to start with? And then as and when it is required, we can deep dive into that.
Yeah. No, I think we start with the foundation. So it's not just like basic or not, but it's like, okay, what are the foundational elements? And if you understand the plans and their configuration at a high level, we put plans in there, and then each plan has a eligibility. So eligibility rules. And let me just throw out a question for you guys, like, how would we modify, or what should we modify that we want to exclude any intern from being part of the merit process? So you have a requirement that, hey, all regular employees should be part of the merit process, but no interns. So
there is
how
a
would we
plan.
take care of that?
Yeah, there was a plan and waiting period right there.
Well, interns are not going to have waiting period. So and
But eligibility criteria you can put.
Yeah. So in the eligibility criteria, you're going to exclude employee type of intern.
Yeah.
Some companies will want to include terminated people who may not be here now. But you could only do that if before they terminated, they had the plan assigned to them. Because once the person is terminated, you cannot assign, plan to them, and you cannot make them part of your plan. So the eligibility rules or the criteria is going to be very important. But we also saw that it's not super difficult, right? It's just basically, okay, who's part of this? Is it regular employees, location, management levels, hire date criteria, like they have to be hired before the start of the fourth quarter of the previous year, that type of eligibility rule that I expect that everybody who's been in this class and we saw that screen should be able to set up the eligibility rules to roll out the plan properly. And so once that rules is set up, you should know how to roll out the plan. You should know how to remove the plan. And you should also know that if the merit or the bonus cycle is in progress, then for those employees, you cannot make any changes to them. Like you cannot remove the plan if they're already in progress. And That's one of the things you cannot do. So there are some rules around what state that you can roll out and remove. But you should be very familiar with this. Next is the plan's compensation matrix, which for the merit plans. So basically it tells us that based on the rating, what should be their target amount or what should be their recommended amount, and then to use it to calculate the pool or to use it just for reference, just to show the manager what the amounts are. And then there is the plan default percent. So whether it's a merit plan or an equity plan, it's going to have a default percentage, right? And it might also have one default one, but then it might have default profile percentages. So based on the countries or based on management level, it's going to have different percentages. So we should all know how to set those up, right? We saw a very good example of that with the management level when we got into the actual GMS tenant for this class, and we saw different management levels and different profiles against that. And then we saw the payroll element that needs to go against each plan. Or I think it's called, not called payroll element, but the definition, it is a payroll element, but I forgot the exact word for it. Compensation element, which is the link between the plan and payroll. We should know what that is. And this plan default percentage based on the compensation basis, based on compensation basis. Okay. All of these together, I expect everybody to know this by now. If you don't, then please let me know now. We could review it on my Wednesday session.
Yeah, I think we are pretty much clear on this one. On the remove part, I think if we have to remove after you have rolled out from a particular employee, the plan itself, it's just, you're going to do that through profile, right? Is there any way to remove in bulk?
Yes. So you're going to create a eligibility rule. So rollout and remove, they're both based on the eligibility rules. So what I do is whatever eligibility rule that I use for the plan, when I'm rolling it out, I roll it out I use the same rule in the rollout. But to remove, I might need to remove only against a certain population. So based on whatever that criteria is, I'll create a rule for that. Like, okay, remove for everybody who's got a termination date less than, or remove for everybody who's got a higher date greater than. That kind of criteria, and then make those changes.
No, so you will create another rule to remove the population. But are you going to roll it out again, or is it going to take that effect immediately?
If you're removing it from some population, like for example, if you rolled it out to everybody and then later on you found out, oh, we need to remove it from the interns. Then you create a rule that says employee type equal intern, and then use that rule in the remove task. So then it will get removed from the interns. So then when you launch it, then the interns will not be part of your compensation review. After we set up the plans, we make something called a compensation template, which helps us in testing because we populate all the dates and the plans and the pool and the participation configuration in one place, and we could use it over and over. We don't have to use it, but then if we don't, then every time we initiate the compensation review, we'll have to enter all of that information. So this is just a template to help us with testing and even help us launching it in production.
Our comprehensive student metrics ensure top-notch learning experiences. We track engagement through attendance, participation, and video interactions. Performance is measured via quiz scores and assignment submissions. We monitor learning behaviors, including time spent and revisit patterns. Our metrics cover social learning, course completion rates, and even post-course success. With technical data on platform usage and device information, we optimize every aspect of your learning journey.
So on the plan, does company keep creating multiple plans every year or every next year unless there is a requirement, or they keep on using the same one? They might have created 3-4 years back.
Yeah, they keep using the same ones, but there will be a time when they do change it. In one company, they had a separate plan for engineering and a separate plan for G&A with different bonus percentages. And then eventually they said, okay, we're not going to have two plans. It's too difficult to manage two plans. We're just going to combine it into one. And then vice versa, some company might say, okay, we're going to separate out these two populations and give them different percentages. And we just want to do that. So that does happen, but majority of the time it's the same plan year after year.
Right. And if I have to make, suppose, some changes to that plan, now while creating the plan, we might have given the date as maybe 1950 or whatever it is. But while editing it and updating it, because that can have direct impact on my start process period, what date exactly I should give on the top of it as the latest effective date for that edit?
It should have the effective date as early as whatever your process period start date is going to be. So if we're in 2024, if you're going to review based on 2023, then your effective date should be January 1, 2023.
Okay.
So,
and if I'm making two changes before that cycle runs, it should be the same date, right? The first one, the 1st January, if that is the period start date.
Correct. Yeah. If there's other changes before that, they don't count.
The changes, they don't count. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but the same date I can give for multiple changes. Because at the time of test, I have faced this problem. I mean, what date I should give? Every time I was changing the plan.
Yes,
So
actually use the same date for all your changes. Otherwise, it'll be hard to test against the combined effect of all the different changes you're doing, right?
Right. Even if there is a gap of 1 day, it will get prorated. I mean, right?
Yeah. Okay, we had the plans, we had the prorations, we had the rounding factors. And then we had the security on hide, target from security groups, like which security groups you want to hide the target from. Hide it from employees, hide it from managers, etc., etc. Then you have the compensation template in which you have to indicate which plans, your process period, end date, your snapshot dates based on the type of plan, snapshot dates, effective date, and then plan effective date, plan reasons. We populate all of that at one time, and then participation rules. So, top level indicate which is the top level, indicate if it's supervisory org, approval level, approval level. Okay. Okay, we have that. There was the, and then before we launch it, if the BP does not already exist, we have to create it. We saw that. Initiate compensation review process BP. And remember in that one, we did how to set up planners, whether it's going to be a manager or custom role. Custom role. Okay, we saw that. There was a security domain in which, in order for someone to be a planner, they needed to belong to the security domain for it, for compensation. And then we talked about the grid and grid configuration.
So this approval level in the participation rule and the planner, custom planner that we configured, we saw example on that. So ideally that custom planner will be approved, right?
Yes, the custom planner would be the approval, yeah.
Yeah, if we have that kind of BP. Otherwise, default is this approval level.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we also saw how to assign the planner to different supervisory orgs. We just like we assign a role, we assign the planner role to the supervisory orgs.
Right.
And then grid configurations, we saw the pool setup.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add some of those other items
I think there are a lot. Yeah, there are a lot.
Yeah.
And in terms of reports or then launch process and review and changing the lump sum and all.
Correct. Yeah.
Promotions and all. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.